We have another great day tomorrow, today. Tomorrow too. But as yesterday, today's going to be another great day. We're bringing it up a level now today. Yesterday, and Amina and I will provide a few reflections on yesterday, but we were much more down at the ground level, engaging with organizations working on the ground, with families, with communities, young influencers, bringing those voices into the room. Today, we're bringing it up and we're talking much more at the policy level, and how can we influence policymakers? How can we influence policy that will then lead to program action? Our first panel will be about, from the ministry perspective, how is shaping policy, what does that look like around early child development here in Ethiopia and in the region. We're going to have a breakout session. One of the things that we're aiming to do as a forum is to come up with some concrete tools, some concrete action steps for engaging with policymakers and putting tools in their hands that will enable them to make good decisions, rational decisions, evidence-based decisions about early child development across health, nutrition, child protection, and education. So we'll be having a breakout session in which 3 different potential decision support tools will be examined by you, and you'll give us our feedback on how you think those tools could be shaped to really be effective when to increase the effectiveness of dialogue with policymakers. And then we'll have an additional session in the afternoon on policies that support family and community investments from others besides government who are working in this space. So that's our day today, and then in the afternoon we'll move on to looking at the impact of acute disruptions. That will lead off our afternoon session, and tomorrow morning looking at various disruptions in systems, how to improve those systems in order to deliver better for children. So with that, I'd like Amina to come up and join me. We're going to provide just a few brief reflections on some thoughts on yesterday's sessions.
Okay, what we aim to do here is just to highlight some messages, takeaway messages we got from yesterday. So one thing we found very striking was a quote from the first session about the fact that as a continent, we are known for the fact that we raise our children, bringing up a child takes a village, but we were reminded very clearly that at the end of the day, there is someone who is fully responsible for the child, and that person is largely the mother. And that for them to be able to fulfill their responsibilities, they need a functional system, they need support and partnerships that are designed that takes into consideration the context they live in, their cultural beliefs, their practices, and them being able to be incorporated in designing solutions for the family.
Our second reflection is on the session with the private sector, and I think it was very clear. We had a number of very nice examples of private sector engagement on these issues, and some new thinking around business models and how to really achieve impact in this space that we thought was really very valuable. One of our reflections was, I think it's really important that we get this two-way conversation going between the private sector, between those that work more in the public sector, so that we're really informing each other. One of the questions that we had is, how can we use research to help the private sector ensure that they're using the most evidence-based approaches as they design their approaches, from a business perspective, ensuring that what they're doing is enabling them to be sustainable, and often through a profit-making mechanism. I thought one of the interesting points was, profit not for an end in and of itself, but as sometimes a very important means in order to engage with people, to engage with communities, and to create sustainability around programs. So getting that sharing of lessons and continuing to encourage new models and the evaluation of those models and the sharing of lessons, both failures and successes on what kinds of business models are really working to deliver sustainable programs that really create impact.
The third thing we think is that when we were planning this workshop, one of the things the committee was very committed to is to bring voices from the ground. These are NGOs, young influencers, the video presentations, so that you just don't have the people on the top talking about it, but we know what's happening in the ground. And we have the feeling that that was really well represented by the various perspectives we received. And going forward, some of the important things we thought that came out is how can we better evaluate some of the programs that are being implemented in the continent. The other issue is how can we better support the young people who are interested in this area so that they can have the necessary skills to develop programs and evaluate them and implement, actually support their communities, build up early childhood programs, and more important, how can we continue bringing in the voice of the community into this discussion so that any policies, any decisions developed has their voices as part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Amina. So it's my great pleasure then, we're ready to move on to our panel with the Ethiopian Ministry. And it's my great honor to introduce Dr. Adaremi Kuku, who will chair this session. He is the president of the African Academy of Sciences.